Hi everybody and welcome to the fourth video in the series TensorFlow Basics with Hemant, and that's myself. In the earlier videos we got to see how to build a model, train it and evaluate it. The effectiveness of the model depends on the quality of the data that we feed in, nature of the model that we build, and the way we train it. There are a few common issues that limit the effectiveness of the model, like underfitting or an overfitting, vanishing gradients, exploding gradients, and we need to do two things to address these issues. So before we address these issues, we need to understand those issues, right? So in the first place, we need to capture the metrics and trainable variables while we are training a model. And the second is we need to visualize the collected metrics and variables. Now, wouldn't it be great if we had an out-of-the-box tool for doing the same thing, that is visualize the collected metrics and variables, and that is what the TensorBoard is for. Okay, so in this video, that is the fourth video of the series, we will explore a few questions around using the TensorBoard. So the questions are like, what is a TensorBoard, what can we do with it, how do we capture data to be visualized in the TensorBoard, and how do we use it from the Google Colab. Like TensorBoard can be loaded independently also, but then most usually you will be running your code from the Google Colab. At least I do so. So how to load TensorBoard from the Google Colab? Now that is something that we will see in this particular video. Okay, so what is TensorBoard? Right, so TensorBoard is a tool for providing the measurements and visualizations needed during the machine learning workflow, right? So machine learning workflow, so we are talking about collecting the data, or then processing that particular data, training the model, evaluating a model, and then once again tweaking our model, right? Now, so that's a machine learning workflow. And during that workflow we need to see what's going on with the training of the model, and that is what we can do with the TensorBoard, right? So once we have built our model and begin training and tuning it, it's a great help to see what happens to key metrics. So what could be the key metrics? So one of the key metrics that we usually need to see while we are training the model is something like the training accuracy, validation accuracy, then training loss, validation loss, and also the weights, right? So some of these issues like vanishing gradients, etc., they are related to the weights and the gradients, right? So we need to capture the weight while we are training our model, right? So TensorBoard is a tool built for doing all this capturing of key metrics and weights, and in addition we can also visualize a computation graph. So whatever model we are creating, we can visualize that particular model and see it in the TensorBoard. Especially if the models are complex and if they have multiple input outputs and also multiple layers, and then visualizing a computation graph in the TensorBoard really helps. Okay, and how did the key metrics change while training? So for example, accuracy, how did it progressed from epoch to epoch? Now that is something which we would definitely like to see. Okay, and how did the weights of the various layers change? So as we know, the model consists of multiple layers, and we need to see how did the weights, or sometimes the gradients of those weights, how they are changing while the training is progressing, right? And then there are a few more things that can be done also. So something like profiling of the performance while the training is being done, right? So these are all the different things that can be easily done with the TensorBoard. And TensorBoard is kind of extensible because there is a concept of a plugin. So you basically have a plugin for different things. So there's something there is a plugin for what if tool and a profiler, and we can use all those different plugins and do a variety of the things with the captured data, right? Now, before we really go ahead, the two things that we really need to see is in the first place, If we want to load the TensorBoard into the Google Collaborative, what we have to do is we have to use this, we have to load this TensorBoard extension, notebook extension here. So the command is percentage load underscore ext TensorBoard, and then when we want to display the TensorBoard into the notebook, what we have to do is use this magic command TensorBoard. Basically tell it where our log directory is, and that is it. It's going to pick up all the data, log data, and then it is going to display various things to us. So from the UI perspective, as you can see, the TensorBoard has got multiple tabs, and if we have logged the right data, then those tabs are going to be visible. So usually the tabs are scalars. Scalars is basically single numbers, right? So loss, for example, is a scalar, accuracy is a scalar because it's a single number, right? And then we can see the graphs like this for the accuracy or the loss or any other custom scalar that you wish to log. Okay, then there is something called as graphs tab. Then we have distributions and histogram tabs also, which are usually used for the visualization of the weights or the gradients actually. And then there is a profiler tab also. So we'll be seeing all these as we go through the remaining slides and the notebooks in this particular lecture. Okay. So now there are basically two different ways to capture the metrics or the tensors. Like even the gradients are essentially variables. When I say tensors, actually it is a variable in this particular, because that is what is going to change while the training. So that is what we can capture. So there are two ways to capture the data. Okay. So the first thing is actually we can use a more basic API, which is called as a tf.summary API, and the second higher level API for capturing all the metrics and the graphs and the tensors is to use a Keras callback. So there is a concept of a callback function in Keras, and we can use to capture the metrics, graph and tensors, and make it available for the visualization in the TensorBoard. Okay. So going forward, so first thing, we have talked a lot about the computation graph earlier, right? And if you want to visualize the computation graph in the TensorBoard, what we have to do in the TF2, TensorFlow 2, is we have to annotate a graph with the add tf dot function. Okay, now what is the reason? Because in the TensorFlow 2, the eager execution is default. Okay, so that means that we need to tell TensorFlow 2 what our graph is, right? And that is why we need to annotate in the code whatever graph we want to capture. And then what we have to do, we have to here is this one small function that we are annotating here, tf dot function, and this is the graph that we are creating here. So we are creating a variable, the tensor A, tensor B, and then we are adding A and B, and capture there's a tensor C created out of the these two tensors. Okay. Now, if you want to capture this particular graph and visualize in the TensorBoard, what we have to do is first we have to create a writer. Okay, so there is an API which is called as tf.summary.createFileWriter. You just give it a parameter called as directory, some directory where we want to basically capture those logs. And then what we have to do is we have to turn on the trace, so that we do using tf.summary.trace on, and we can say graph equal to true there, and then execute that particular graph there. And then once the function is or the graph is executed, then what we have to do is with writer as default, we have to see, we have to export this particular trace, the captured trace, and we can give it a name. Okay, so that is it that we need to do, but we have to just keep this in mind that in the TensorFlow 2, by default there is nothing like a graph, it's an eager execution. So if you really want to capture graph, you will have to annotate a graph with a tf dot function. Okay, and then we'll have to use the tf dot summary dot trace API to capture. So we turn on the trace, and then we we execute a function and then write it to the uh, writer, okay, that we have created earlier. So that is the idea of capturing the graph in the TensorBoard 2. Okay, and we will see all this in the notebook. This is just a basic explanation that I'm doing right now. Now another thing that we can do is we can capture metrics like loss, accuracy, and many other metrics are available, and we can capture these at regular intervals, like we can capture them per epoch, per batch, etc. And then these metrics give us a clue if model is overfitting or underfitting, or if it is just right. Okay, and then we can use a tf.summary.scalar method to capture the scalars. Okay, so let's quickly take a look at the code here. So this is what our data is over here, and what we are doing is we are creating a writer as usual. So we have this writer already created, train underscore summary, and then we use this tf.summary.scalar, and then we give a name of the matrix like loss, and then we basically capture the loss here and the accuracy here. Okay, and then we can keep on doing it per epoch, right? And then what we do is there is a function that we can use wherein we can also log in the trainable variables as a histogram also, and we will talk about this in the next slide. Okay, so capturing the scalars, right? So there's a method tf.summary.scalar for it. Okay, now moving on, the next thing that we can do is actually we can create a we can also capture the tensors. Okay, and the API for that is tf.summary.histogram. Okay, so if you have these trainable variables, which is like model dot trainable variables, we can get the trainable variables using model dot trainable variables, right? And then we can log all those variables as histograms in the TensorBoard, right? So what we do here, so in this particular case, the add history function, what we are doing is we are iterating through all the trainable variables over here, and the trainable variable consists of two parts, like name and a value. So we are splitting it into name and value, and then what we do, we use this tf.summary.histogram, and we give it a name, we give it a value and a step number, and uh, this is a distributions view, and this is a histogram view of the weights, and we will see that in detail in the notebook. Okay, but just keep in mind that we can log any kind of tensors using tf.summary.histogram, and we can iterate through the trainable variables of the model, and we can push it as an histogram for it to be visualized in the TensorBoard. Okay, and there are two views here. One is view is a distribution view, and another view is the histogram view over here. Now, so far what we have talked about is basically capturing the scalars, graph, and tensors through the tf.summary API. But there is also an easier, simpler way also, and that is through the Keras callbacks actually. So callbacks in Keras are objects that are called at different points during the training. So we can call it at the start of the epoch, at the end of the epoch, at the start of the batch, end of the batch. There are multiple ways we can actually call the callback function. Okay, and now this particular thing can be used to implement different kind of behaviors actually. So there is a callback function which is called as a tf dot keras dot callback dot tensorboard. Okay, tf dot keras dot callbacks dot tensorflow. That's the callback that we can use to log all the scalars and the metrics very easily if we are using the Keras API. So what we do here, we have a model already created. We are compiling that model as usual in the Keras, and then we just declare this logging directory here. So we are just creating different directories for the different timestamps, and then we create a TensorFlow callback, right? And what do we give it? We give it a log directory. We give it a histogram frequency equal to 1. That means essentially enable logging of the tensors, and we are also enabling the graph, and we can also say that we want the profile, we want the performance data also to be profiled. Okay, and we can give the the epochs actually over here, which batches we want to profile and all. And then how do we call it? So in the model.fit method, there is an option wherein we can say callbacks equal to the list of the callbacks. So in this particular case, only we have only one callback, tensorboard underscore callback. So we just give this callback, and that's pretty much it. So once we have this callback created, and once we call this callback from the model.fit, then what it is going to do, it is going to capture this accuracy matrix, it is going to capture this loss, and since we are saying histogram frequency equal to 1, it's also going to capture all the weights, right? So once this data is captured, we can easily open up the TensorBoard and see all these captured scalars, metrics and graphs into the TensorBoard, right? Pretty easy, right? Now, before we really get into the session 4 summary, we will walk through a couple of notebooks, and then we'll get into the summary. So the first notebook, right? So we will try to use the basic API for capturing a graph, right? So what we have to do, we have to import TensorFlow, correct? And then this is something interesting which we need to talk about. So we need to load the TensorBoard notebook extension. Since we are using the Google Colaboratory and we want to use the TensorBoard, what we have to do is we have to load this TensorBoard extension, notebook extension, and then we can load the TensorBoard into the Google Colaboratory notebook itself. Okay. Now this particular command actually is for removing any kind of previous logs that we had onto this particular server, right? So we remove everything that is there into that directory, so all previous logs are kind of wiped out. And then what we do now in this particular case, what we are trying to do is we are trying to capture a graph, right? And as we discussed, actually we have to annotate a function with the add tf dot function, right, for doing that. So that's what is happening here. And then we have to turn on the trace. So that's happening in this particular statement. Then we call these two functions, right? So we are calling two graphs, like graph 1 and graph 2, right? And then what we do is with the writer as default, we basically export this trace into this particular directory, and then we will visualize it in the TensorBoard. And this is where we are creating this writer and giving configuring it with this particular directory here. So let's do this quickly. Now that's done. Now let's see what do we find under this. right? So we find these two events under it, and let's now go and invoke our tensor board. Okay, uh, let's see what's going on. Okay, so I think we probably did not execute that particular magic command at that point in time. Uh, it takes a little bit of time to for this TensorBoard to come up, so don't panic actually if it doesn't show up for a couple of seconds. And there you go actually. So we have got our, so since there is a data created for the graph, we have this graphs tab here, and we can see, we had these two graphs, right? AB and XYZ and ABC, and that's what we see here. So now we can zoom it a bit, and then we can click on this. So it will show you that okay, there are two inputs X and Y, right? And then we can explore it further, like what is an X and what is a Y and what is a Z. So it says that it is an operation add. Okay, and these are the inputs and this is the output that we have. Okay, so same thing for A and B. So that is how we can visualize a graph, right? So this looks very simple, but when we go to the further notebooks like notebook number 2 and 3, we'll be able to see like little more complex graphs also. But this is the basic mechanism for capturing the graph, right? So what we need to do, annotate a function, and then we basically need to turn on the trace. We execute the graphs and then we export the summary, right? That's pretty much about capturing the graphs in the TensorFlow 2. Okay, nice. So let's get on with the other topic, which is about capturing the scalars and the tensors. Okay, now the same thing here, we need to import TensorFlow, and then we once again load this TensorBoard extension. We just wipe out any earlier logs that have been created. So first we'll try to see how we can log a scalar. Okay, so what we do, we create a writer. So there is no difference in what we did earlier for graphs and what we do for the scalars, right? The writer API remains the same. We create a writer, and then with the writer as default, what we do, we can basically write create any kind of scalar. So in this particular case, what I'm doing is I'm creating a scalar, and then I'm giving it a value of 0, and then I'm incrementing it through a loop here just by 0.5, like 100 times. And then what do I do, I flush this particular writer, right? Now that was for the scalar. Now what if I wanted to log in a tensor, right? So the same thing, I create a writer here again. Okay, so here it was logs, here it is fit. Okay, slight difference in the directory. Okay, and then this particular writer as default, what we do, we set up a loop here. We create a tensor of shape 3 by 3 and with a 1000 as a maximum value, and then we use this API tf.summary.histogram, and this is the name that we are giving to this particular histogram, and then we are capturing this t, the tensor that we are creating, and then we are giving it a step. So we have got this 10 steps here, I 1 to 10, sorry, 0 to 9 rather. So that's how it will be. So it will, and I'm just printing this tensor just for us to see. So these are the tensors which are created over here. So let's go and see what happens here. So I think we had not executed this thing. Okay, so this part is executed. So we have captured a scalar. Now let's also capture the tensors. So even that is done. So 10 tensors are created, right? Because it was a loop of 10 in the range of 10, right? So we created these random tensors with a maximum value of 1000. Okay. Now let's see what do we get here. So there is an event which is created, and now let's go and see what happens with this tensor board here. So since everything is under the logs directory, we should be able to see both, right? We have these scalar in the logs directory, and we also have the other tensors also in the subdirectory of the logs, right? So when we say tensor board log directory logs, we should be able to see both, right? And there we go. Actually, this is our metric, because we had named it my metric, if you just recall here. So this is a my metric, and we basically started with 0 and 100 times in the 0.5, so it should go up to 50, correct? So it went up to 50 in the increments of 50. So that is the metric. So we logged in the metric value 100 times here, right? Now what about the weights? So there are two views for checking out the weights. One is the distribution, and another is the histogram, right? So let's click on the distributions for a second, and there we are able to see, we have the tensor, and these are the epochs 0 to 9, and these are the values, like so we said that the maximum value in the tensor is 1000, right? So in the 0th the 0th time, the weights were kind of distributed from here to here, and then for 1 it was distributed from here to here, and for 2 it was distributed from here to here, and things like that, right? So this is a view of all the tensor values from epoch 0 to 9, and these are the values that we have, right? And let's go to the histogram view also. How does it show? So in the histogram, you can see, these are the values, right? 0 to 1000, 0 to 1000 over here. So it goes slightly ahead, but since it has gone up to only, we said up to 1000, but it went only up to 981, and these are the epochs actually. So this one slice is actually one epoch, right? And then these are the different so these are like the buckets. It's showing different kind of buckets, like, so if you see here, there are a lot of values into this particular bucket. There are less number of values into this particular bucket and all. So that's how it shows. So these are the epochs, these are the values of those tensors, and this shows us, like, how often the values are into this particular range actually. Okay, so these are kind of histogram bins, so that's why it is called as a histogram view. Okay, so that's and you can essentially generate any kind of distribution, right? So if you use this tf.random.normal distribution, you can create a normal distribution and visualize it. You can create a uniform distribution, you can create a Poisson distribution, and you can write all these different distributions just for fun into the TensorBoard. You create a file writer and then write all those things into the TensorBoard using this summary.histogram API, and you'll be able to see all this. So this is the the normal distribution for 1000 kind of epochs, or the iterations. This is the visualization of the Poisson distribution. This is the uniform distribution that we have. Well, I think we'll have to refresh this particular thing. and this is another one, weights distribution that we have. Okay, so all these different distributions we can create and see in the TensorBoard. Okay, so that's about the basic API for capturing the scalars and the tensors. So for the scalars, it's tf.summary.scalar, and for the tensors, it is tf dot summary dot histogram. Right now, moving on, let's take one like an example. Okay, where this is being used practically. So let's once again load this TensorBoard extension. Import, and then we are basically loading this profile plugin. Okay, so we just need to do this because we'll try to see the profiler tab as well into the TensorBoard, and we are just deleting any previous logs that we had. Now this is a more concrete example. So what we are doing is we are taking this MNIST data set, and then we are creating a model here, a simple model. So there are a couple of layers here, starting from flatten layer, which is an input layer, and then we have dense, dropout, dense, and then so the three dense layers here, and we have this 100 the neurons into the this particular layer, dense 1, dense 2 also 100, and then we are doing this activation like a softmax activation on it. Let's create this model. Then what we do, we create a model, we compile, and then as we had seen earlier, we use this TensorFlow callback so that we are able to visualize the weights and the scalars, both loss and accuracy. So let's do this training. It will take a minute or two for this epochs to kind of go through. Hope you guys are finding this interesting. I found TensorBoard when I started experimenting with it very interesting because it's visual, right? So a lot of things to just play around and have fun with. So we are almost done with all the training. So we are done with the training. And what we can do is now we can go and check what happened during the training actually. So we'll check the loss and the accuracy, and then we'll also check the weights. Yeah, it does take a bit of a time for TensorBoard in the notebook to load. So just don't panic if it doesn't do it immediately. So there we go actually. So we have these so as you can see, the blue line is a validation accuracy, and red line is the training accuracy. So as you can see here, it's slightly interesting thing here that the validation accuracy is more than the training accuracy and the loss, right? So blue is the validation loss, and the red is the training loss. Okay, so you can see these scalars by going to the scalars. Let's also check out the graphs because we had said capture the graph. Oh, whoa. So this is showing us, like, what all different things are happening in the computation here. If you want to simplify this graph a little bit, what you have to do is actually go and select this Keras tag, and then kind of double click on this, and so you'll be able to see, these are all the different layers. So for example, if I click on the flatten, I'll be able to see, and then on the dense, uh, the different input and outputs. So if I click on this, it'll show different details about that particular layer actually that we have. Okay, so this is how the graph is going to look like. And then let's go to the distribution. So since we had multiple layers in this particular case, so we had three different layers. So this is the dense, this was the innermost layer that we have, and we have the view of the bias as well as of the weights here. So what does it tell us here? That these were the epochs. So we are basically running the 5 epochs, and these are the values actually in which it is ranging. And as you can see, uh, the these darker areas, what do they mean actually? So majority of the values are lying here, but then there are outliers which are also going into this outer, like the up to this particular range, right? So mainly most of the values are falling into this particular range, but then some of the values are going out. That is what it means. Okay, so these are kernel values. So bias, kernel, bias and kernel for different layers. So we have these three different layers: dense, dense 1, dense 2, right? Now we also can go and take a look at the histograms of the same layers, and this is what it is going to show us. Now once again, we have three views here, one for dense, and then within dense we have this bias and a kernel here. And what does this thing show here? So these are the values of those these are the values of the tensors. Okay, and these are the epochs 0 to 5, and then how frequently these values are occurring. So for example, this particular value is occurring like very relatively frequently. So many times this value has kind of occurred, so it tells us that this is a more common value uh, in the tensor at that particular epoch. In a different epoch it could be something else, so like that. So we know how did the weights actually progress from epoch 0 to epoch 1. It seems that the bias has changed from epoch to epoch, whereas the weights have remained like more or less similar into this particular dense 0. Let's see. So in the this is how the dense 2 weights have changed from epoch 0 to epoch 5. This is how the bias is changed from here to here, and these are the range of the values of those individual tensor values. Okay. Now going forward, we basically saw like how we can capture those graphs and scalars and distributions and histograms using the Keras. Now here is another way to capture the graphs and scalars and tensors if you are using the gradient tape. So if your training loop is using this tf dot gradient tape, then how can you capture your metrics and scalars, right? Now for that, what you have to do, you have to use the basic API, that is the tf.summary API. Okay, so we will take a look at this. So what we are doing for this is actually we are creating a data set from the MNIST data that we had, and then we are defining a loss object and an optimizer object. This is just to create a training loop in the tf.gradient tape, and we are creating these couple of metrics, right, that we want to capture. And then this is where the majority of the training logic is, which is train underscore step. So we are passing a model, an optimizer, X train and Y train, and step to it. And under the context of this tf dot gradient tape, what we do is we capture the gradients, and then what we are doing is, before we apply the gradients and we calculate a loss and accuracy, what we do is we capture the gradients also. So this is something which is not available out of the box in the TensorFlow 2. So this is one of the examples where this is how we can capture the gradient. So we take this grads here and then we iterate through this, so we get an index and individual gradient, and then essentially we log it using an index actually. Okay, so there's a little bit of logic involved here in splitting the index and the name, and that's what we do here. And we use this API at tf.summary.histogram, and we give it a name like grad underscore the index, or the name actually, rather, because what we are doing is actually we are getting the name from the model dot trainable variable dot name, because the name is not available in the grads here. Okay, so that's why we are getting the name from the model dot trainable variables, and then we are using it for the logging purpose here. And then once we are done with this part, then we are flushing the writer, and then these things are usual thing like applying the gradient and all. And then we have this loss basically created, and the accuracy. So training loss and accuracy was kind of defined here. So we have this matrix called as mean and accuracy, and that's what we have been using it. And then we are creating these different directories for logging the data that we want to. So we are logging the training data separately and the test data separately. We have two different writers for it. And then coming back to the main training loop, what we are doing is we are creating a writer here, and then we are capturing this loss scalar and accuracy scalar here, and we are also adding the histogram over here. All these histograms are getting added. So all the trainable variables, right? So trainable variables we are adding to this histogram function, and the gradients we are logging separately, because why that is happening is because the gradients are available into this, but like after we have this tf dot gradient tape, right? So gradients are available here, so that's why we are logging them immediately over here. And then while we are executing this particular training loop, we are logging the trainable variables histogram by calling this function over here. Okay, and then we execute this whole loop here. So let me just define this. I hope I'm not sure if I executed this. Let me execute this also. Okay, this we are done. Let me do this as well. Define this function and then run the loop here. So let's see. So as usual, it will take a minute or two to go through this. So if you really want to have a little more control or what you want to log, how you want to log, then we can use this particular method, right? We have our own training loop and we can capture whatever we need to. The easiest approach is to use Keras. That itself is sufficient for, I think, more than probably 95% of the cases. But then if you have something special, then you can use this particular method to capture whatever is needed. So we'll keep on observing this loss and accuracy, how they're progressing throughout the training. So I think I'll just pause the video here. So we are done with the training here. So we see this, the loss actually from 0.34 to 0.08. Accuracy went up from 89 to 97. Not bad, right? So it's time to open the TensorBoard again and check the results. So we are using a different directory in this particular case. So sometimes waiting is worth the results. There it comes. So TensorBoard. So we have all these tabs here: scalars, distribution, histograms, right? So scalars, once again, the accuracy and the loss we have. Let's check out the histograms. Now what do we have here? Let's check out. There it goes. So we had already seen these weights and biases earlier. Now this is something additional that we had captured in this particular case, which is a gradient. Let's check out on the gradient. There it goes. It's like pretty much the steady gradient that we're getting. Let's check out something else. Yeah, here the gradients have changed in this particular layer quite a bit. And let's check out this also. Yeah, here also the gradients have changed. So that's the way we can capture the gradients also. And I think we had turned on the profiling as well. Okay, I think profile we had done in the TensorBoard. Okay, so let me just check the profile tab here. If it is not active, we can just go and check if the profile data has been captured or not. So it's saying uploading. Let's check. Let's see what comes up. So it's a bit slow actually. So this is the overview page. So this is a bit slow in fact. So there's something called as a trace viewer. We can go here and check the trace viewer also. It's like really slow, uploading 20%. Let me just pause the video. So yeah, the data for the profiler kind of got loaded. So what we are seeing here is actually the input pipeline analyzer. So we can see, how the time was utilized, and here you can see, the kernel launching probably is taking a lot of time, and the next one is all others like compilation and other stuff actually over here. Okay, so that is how the profiler, and let's also check out the trace viewer as well. Does take, it's still loading. So this is how the profiler view, okay, this is a pod view, the trace view is gone. So this is how the trace viewer in the profiler is going to look like. We are not going into the details of how this whole thing works. There's a separate video that I'm going to do for this. For now, I just wanted to show that Profiler is one of the plugins onto the TensorBoard, and capturing the performance details is very easy with the Keras. We just turned on profile underscore batch, and that's it. And then we can come back here and we can check how did the training performed. So this is very helpful when we want to figure out what are the bottlenecks during the training. Okay, so that's pretty much we had on the notebook. So let's be back to the the presentation, and let's summarize what we learned in this particular session. So here comes the session 4 summary. So we discussed that TensorBoard is a useful tool to visualize scalars and tensors. So scalars could be loss, accuracy, or any kind of metric, any kind of custom metric or custom value that we want to log. And the tensors are basically any kind of weights or gradients that we want to visualize, and they're very helpful when we are trying to debug the issues like vanishing gradient or exploding gradients. And the logging of the scalars is very useful if you really want to figure out what's going on with the model, like whether it is overfitting, underfitting, and all that. And then we have two options for logging the data for the TensorBoard. So one is the Keras callback. Otherwise, we can use this tf.summary API. So for the scalars, it is tf.summary.scalar, and for the tensor, this is tf.summary.histogram, right? So that is pretty much everything that we have for session 4. I hope it was useful to you, and I'll be back with a next video in a week or so. So thank you very much for listening to the video, and I'll request all of you to post your comments and likes on the video on either LinkedIn or on the YouTube. Thank you so much. Bye bye.